I'm gonna go up on stage and just try and get a really good shot. So I got up and I got this shot of like some of the singers and things with the whole audience behind them. And then Jack was like, did they catch you? And I was like, what? He was like, oh, literally, you went up those stairs and like they were on the radio, like saying, who's that? Like they sent like men after you. And I just like disappeared by the time they got there.
So, Crow Hill road trips.
Yes.
Can you talk about the first road trip and ones you've done in between?
The first road trip that we did was to Norfolk, well over a year ago now, and that was to blow up the lawnmower. I mean, really, it was one of the first times I'd really spent any time with you and like the Crow Hill team, and so that was a really interesting way to get to know people for sure. What else have we done? We've done Manchester for the Take That arena tour that we did. We did the Highlands as well. We spent some time up in the Highlands filming some stuff. So yeah, we've been around. We've been about. We've definitely made some ground. Never been to America, and it was the most jarring introduction, I think, to American culture and American life, because it was just like the epitome of Americanized capitalist like advertising, just like slaps you in the face. I very much had kind of a preconceived idea of what Vegas would be. I think literally from like the 80s photography in Vegas, I'm thinking like proper neon, like old street signs and hotel signs and all this kind of stuff. And I'd kind of built it up in my head, and I'd watched like the Hangover trilogy of movies, and I knew kind of Vegas, but there's something about being there where the street signs just look that way and the roads are just like big and wide and flat, and it was all these things that I'm familiar with, that I've seen on like TV and in movies and things, but actually kind of being there was this kind of thing where my body was like, I recognize this, but it's the first time I'm seeing it and experiencing it. It's really weird. We didn't really get a chance to like outside of the one time to explore much of the Strip, just because they didn't really have like pavements and stuff to like walk from where we were at the Strip. So like whenever we wanted to go anywhere, we had to get an Uber to just drive us and spend like loads of time in traffic to get somewhere. And then once we were there, we would get out and walk around, and there were some streets, but it wasn't a very like pedestrianized spot. I think the big kind of center, like that big kind of like tourist like honeypot bit, you definitely could walk around and things, but anything outside of that, it just felt like impossible to get to by foot.
You've been to America before?
LA twice, yeah.
Okay. But this is your first time to Vegas?
First time to Vegas, yeah. And I've just never seen anything like it, and never will again. It's the whole thing of like kind of maximalism in America. When they talk about that, I think that's where it comes from, is just everything you can imagine is bigger and more in your face, and it's loud. It's, yeah, sensory overload for sure.
And how is that different to LA?
It's definitely bigger, but it's much more chilled. I think it doesn't seem as kind of, it's not built up in quite the same way. Vegas is definitely more condensed. I mean, we stayed still on the Strip, but kind of over here, and you think, oh, it's going to be 5 minutes for us to get to Caesar's Palace and such, but it's actually like 15 minutes in an Uber going through traffic for miles to even get down the road. Yeah. On the road out from the airport taking you into town, every billboard that's on your side coming in is an accident lawyer, because the accidents are so frequent and the drivers are notoriously so bad, so angry out there, that literally it's designed so that if you come into a collision with someone that spins you off the road and you get out of your car, the first thing you see is a massive poster of an injury lawyer with really shiny teeth.
First time to America?
No, not my first time. First time to Vegas.
Okay. So where had you been before?
I've been to LA before, twice before, with, work trip. LA and Vegas are very different places still, is what I've discovered. Main differences is Vegas is completely money, party, kind of, that's my vibe of what I got from it, but I never really left the Strip. I was we were working and we were staying on the Strip, or we were going to places for work and stuff. So I think I have quite a skewed experience of Vegas, of being like fully in it, fully immersed in all the hotels and the casinos and everything. But when I stayed in LA, we were actually quite near the sea, so it was very tranquil, very chill, lots of people out for their little runs, a lot of like health influencers were all around and stuff. So yeah, I grew up on a very small Scottish island with, I'm not going to actually say the population because how much was it? It was like 4,500 people on it. So I am definitely, you would say, a country bumpkin. I'm definitely not very much of a city person. So Vegas is like completely me out of my natural habitat, and I found it incredibly overwhelming, but in the most amazing way at the same time. The buildings there were just like so unnecessarily huge. Like I felt like I said to you, like I just felt like I didn't fit. It wasn't built for humans. It was built for some other species which was much bigger, and I was like a hobbit in this world of man. That's what it felt like. But yeah.
And it's not just height, is it? It's kind of width.
Everything's wider as well. All the cars are wider, the roads and everything. Being in such like cultural shock as well, of being like, okay, when you're like around, you feel like, oh, I feel like I can maybe guess, like judging by what that person wears and stuff, what they do and things. But in America, it's so different. I was like, I can't even read anyone here. Like it was like I think everyone's there for like the parties and stuff, so everyone's very much like dolled up and going to the casinos and everything. So it was cool.
There was 3 of us that went, including myself. It was me, it was Robbie, and it was Anna. Robbie's another videographer and photographer, and so am I. So the 2 of us were both videographers and photographers. And Anna was there supporting basically the entire thing in terms of production, but also just like logistics and dealing with all the different kind of moving parts.
Anna kind of makes sure that everything is going smoothly and that no one misses their flight. Essentially produces all of the kind of visits that we do to places like that. And I'm there to capture kind of sort of sharper photos basically for assets. I think it was good to have that kind of mixture of different focal lengths going at the same time, and the photography gives us a little bit more to work with when it comes to generating assets. It's all well and good to pull from video, but I think photography will always trump that slightly due to quality. I'm
the producer, so I was in charge of kind of orchestrating the trip, making sure people were on time.
Why are you looking at me?
So yeah, kind of planning things and then helping with shoots and making sure that we had everything booked for all the stuff that we were doing out there. So we were there to film with some very special artists that we're currently collaborating with. One of them, she was also playing at the Hans Zimmer live concert there in Vegas. So we were able to, through that, get in and to film bits of the show, to film bits of her kind of on stage, as well as the whole ensemble. And then we also ended up taking her to a photography studio the following day to kind of just play around and try and get some videos and bits of her playing. Originally we were planning on going out to the desert with her, but permits were just an absolute nightmare to source. So we ended up resorting back to, why don't we get all of our desert B-roll and all of our kind of different kind of elements of these kind of like earthy textures and colors and things we wanted to kind of pull from, and we'll get those separately, and then we'll get really kind of controlled environment where we can play with light and we can take our time with her and just kind of all focus in on that. I've not had it very many times, but it was just this funny thing where every now and then we would be shooting and I would just say to her like, "Oh, you're doing great, by the way," because usually there's quite a lot of conversation that goes on. But filming with her, she just has such an incredible, obviously just from years of performing, just this stage presence that she brings, that as soon as she was just in front of the camera, she was absolutely just like switched onto it, and she was straight into it, that I didn't have to direct anything. It was very much, she stood there and then I was
on the receiving end of that now, where I just have to work around her.
Yeah, so that was half a day in essentially what was a infinity cove. They removed the corners on the edge of the room. They do that to give you the illusion of kind of an infinite sense of space, really, so that it could just go on and on and on. And if you kind of light that from in a certain way, i.e. not too close to the back of the room, you just have this kind of, this almost sort of ethereal effect. Nice flowing dress. It kind of gives a nice sort of neutral effect visually, which I think was really good, because it means that Jack can kind of go all out on all the other stylistic parts of the trailer without that part rooting to a certain setting. Like, she's not on stage right then, she's not in the desert, it's just her kind of with the focus being directly on her.
Had you ever been backstage on a gig of that kind of scale?
Me personally, no. I know that Jack and Anna went to take that before, and I think the arena vibe, and obviously I edited that video, and yeah, the vibe is quite similar, but the scale of it is just like nothing I've seen before. Yeah, the crowd absolutely loved it. I mean, they were doing the thing of kind of everyone's whooping from different parts of the stadium. Yeah, I've never seen people do that. It's not a very like kind of British thing. That was, yeah, quite American feeling.
I think there was a crew of 150 people, and there was 50 people on stage. So like behind the scenes was mad. It was like, so you could just tell that they were like, it was also the last show as well, so there was like such an energy to it as well. Like, I think they ended up like going on way longer than they were scheduled to, just to show some more of their more iconic, well, Hans's iconic scores. We were allowed to like go backstage and take photos. I just like was watching other photographers, and they were just like going up onto the stage and everything, and I was like, I'm gonna go up on stage and just try and get a really good shot. So there was this like steps that people were going up onto, and I was like, I'm just gonna quickly go up. So I got up and I got this shot of like some of the singers and things with the whole audience behind them. And then I was like, oh, that's nice. So I looked at the photo and stuff, and then went away. And then Jack was like, did they get you? Did they catch you? Did they catch you? And I was like, what? He was like, oh, literally, you went up those stairs and they were on the radio, like saying, who's that? Like they sent like men after you. And I just like disappeared by the time they got there. But it's a really good photo. I'm proud of the photo.
We went to a place called Red Rock Canyon. It was a very kind of like rocky, red earthy, kind of sandstony place where we kind of got in, and I was kind of expecting like, oh, we'll get some like white desert sand, we'll get some, maybe some of these old like red bits and all that. But the colors of just being there and coming back and like looking back at the footage was these incredibly like really rich like red hues. And it was the guy that was taking us through this tour, because the way that we ended up doing the Vegas desert stuff was by just jumping on a tour bus, and it was like a small coach, and it was this one guy that took us out. So we were on this hike, and whilst we were kind of hiking up this hill, it was trying to stop and get bits of B-roll and then not fall behind, basically in the kind of group.
The really cool thing about it was the kind of different textures that we had. So it's a mixture of red rock meeting the sandstone, and it creates this kind of layered effect. So it's world famous for, I think, rock climbers, but for us it was visually something that was just screaming kind of like red hot. I mean, almost kind of June sort of vibes.
We went into this kind of canyon area, and it was so quiet, because we'd been in Vegas for like days straight, and it's so like, even just like trying to get sleep, you've always got the aircon, you've always got like noise happening. So when we went out to this place, it was like so quiet, and that was good. I quite like that. And also just being out in nature and like the different landscape there was incredible.
No one came back with a kid, married, or indeed a white leopard. You came back safe and sound, but was there any kind of endearing memory, no matter how big or small?
Benihana's was great. Benihana's for me was this experience of, we spent a lot of the time, I mean, talking from myself, just completely fried mentally from, I think it was the combination of like the jet lag and like the heat, and then also just like being there and the kind of the pressure of all of these kind of things that we're trying to film and get whilst we're out there. That we went to Benihana's one night, and Robbie and Anna had said like, oh, they'd never seen me like this before, but there's just like nothing behind the eyes kind of thing. I felt like I was just kind of on autopilot, and I was kind of, almost just like losing myself a bit, and I was out just to eat. But then these guys come out and they start like chopping stuff up, and they're like hitting the wee things, and they're like pouring the fire and stuff on there, and they're all cracking jokes, and like they're performing, and it just like pulled me right back into myself, and it made for just like not only like an incredible meal, but just this kind of moment of like, oh, like I'm human again. Like it just kind of like, it pulled me out of the kind of jet lag, like stuff. So yeah, that was probably one of my highlights of the trip for sure.
The weather was also amazing. It was above 30 and the hotel had a pool, but it's quite a long way, so maybe a little break before I go back. Yeah.
This woman had her wee dog, and she was like obviously staying in a hotel, and she wanted to let the dog out to go to the toilet or something, and this little, like, I think it was like a little Shih Tzu, was just on this like astroturf grass, and he just looked so sad, just like looking up at his owner. It's like, there's no real grass. This is the only spot, it's the only haven that you have. And it's so funny.
Oh,
Bliss.